Summerfield, Florida, a town where life moved at a slower pace, where neighbors knew each other's names, and where children played freely in the streets. The Jones family seemingly lived this dream. Michael and Casey Jones were the quintessential couple. He, a quiet man, worked steadily to provide for his family. She, a devoted mother, dedicated her days to their 4 beautiful children. But appearances, as they often do, can be deceiving. Whispers began to circulate. Michael, though quiet, was known to have a temper. A darkness lurked beneath his calm exterior.
Friends noticed the changes, the forced smiles, the whispered excuses for Michael's behavior. Cassie confided in them, sharing her fears, her growing unease.
The fear in her eyes was palpable. She was trapped, caught in a web of fear and uncertainty. Michael Jones felt the walls closing in. Work was a dead end, a daily grind that offered no solace. The bills piled up, each one a reminder of his failures.
His thoughts spiraled, dark and consuming. Anger simmered within him, a constant companion.
Home, once a sanctuary, became a battleground. Every unfulfilled need fueled the resentment that festered within him. The pressure built, threatening to erupt with devastating consequences. Casey walked on eggshells, her every move calculated to avoid his wrath. She knew the signs, the subtle shifts in his demeanor that signaled an approaching storm. Fear, a constant undercurrent, colored her days.
She tried to shield them, to create a bubble of normalcy in the midst of the chaos. But the strain was evident, etched on her face, in the tremor of her voice.
She had to get out, had to find a way to escape the suffocating grip of her marriage. But how? The thought of leaving, of taking her children away from their father, filled her with a different kind of fear, a fear of the unknown.
In hushed tones, I confided in my friends. I shared my fears, my growing desperation.
We listened, offering words of comfort, urging her to seek help.
But escape seemed impossible. She was trapped, bound by fear and a sense of duty.
Still, a flicker of hope remained. I clung to this hope, even as the darkness threatened to consume me.
She began to make plans, small steps towards independence. Days turned into weeks. The laughter that once filled the Jones home was replaced by an eerie silence.
Casey's once frequent social media posts ceased. Her online presence, a vibrant tapestry of family photos and cheerful updates, went dark.
Friends reached out, their texts unanswered, their calls going straight to voicemail. A knot of worry tightened in their stomachs.
The silence stretched on, each passing day amplifying the fear that gnawed at the edges of our minds. Cassie, the devoted mother, the loyal friend, would never disappear without a word.
Whispers turned to worried conversations. Neighbors gathered on porches, their faces etched with concern.
Rumors swirled, each more unsettling than the last. Had Michael's temper finally reached its breaking point? Had something sinister befallen the young mother and her children?
The fear, once a whisper, now hung heavy in the air, suffocating the once peaceful community.
Days turned into weeks, and the silence remained unbroken. The truth, hidden in the shadows, was far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. A truth that would shatter our idyllic world.
Driven by a growing sense of dread, Cassie's friends and family contacted the authorities. A missing persons report was filed.
The front lawn, once meticulously maintained, was overgrown. Toys lay abandoned, gathering dust.
Knocks on the door went unanswered. The house, once filled with the sounds of family life, was eerily silent.
Inside, an unsettling stillness hung in the air. The house was empty.
The disappearance of the Jones family sent shockwaves through Summerfield.
Search parties were organized. Flyers with the family's pictures were posted on every street corner.
Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Cassie and her children. Hope began to dwindle, replaced by a growing sense of despair.
The answer, when it finally came, would not come from the streets of Summerfield. The truth lay hundreds of miles away, hidden in a web of lies and deceit that would soon unravel.
Hundreds of miles away from the quiet streets of Summerfield, a minor traffic accident unfolded on a desolate stretch of highway in rural Georgia.
Officer David Diaz, a seasoned veteran with a keen eye for detail, approached the scene. The driver, a man in his late 30s, appeared shaken but unharmed.
As Officer Diaz approached the vehicle to assess the damage, a foul odor assaulted his senses. It was a pungent, nauseating stench, the unmistakable smell of decay.
"Sir?" Officer Diaz asked, his voice firm but measured. "What's that smell?"
I hit a deer a few days ago," he stammered. "I haven't had a chance to clean it out yet."
Officer Diaz, his suspicions peaked, pressed further. The smell was too strong, too overwhelming to be a days-old carcass.
"Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle," Officer Diaz commanded.
Michael Jones complied, his movements stiff and unnatural.
Peering through the window, Officer Diaz saw it. A bundle wrapped in blankets tucked behind the driver's seat. Flies buzzed around the edges of the fabric.
With trembling hands, Officer Diaz reached for the bundle, and then he saw her, a woman's body, her skin pale and clammy, her eyes staring vacantly into the void. The discovery sent shockwaves through the quiet Georgia town. News of the body found in Michael Jones' car spread like wildfire. Michael Jones, his facade of normalcy shattered, was immediately taken into custody.
The investigation revealed a history of domestic abuse, of simmering rage and escalating violence.
Under interrogation, Michael Jones cracked. The mask of composure he'd worn for so long crumbled. He confessed to killing Cassie, his voice devoid of emotion, as he recounted the brutal details of her final moments. The quiet, unassuming man from Summerfield was leading a double life. But the horror didn't end there.
"Where are the children, Mr. Jones?" they asked.
A flicker of something akin to panic crossed Michael Jones's face.
In a chilling confession, Michael Jones revealed the location of his children's bodies. Led by a map drawn with shaking hands, investigators made their way to a remote wooded area.
There, beneath the shade of towering pines, they found them. Mercalli, Cameron, Preston, and Ayanna. 4 innocent lives extinguished by the very person who had sworn to protect them. The discovery sent a collective gasp of horror across 2 states. Michael, his face pale and drawn, sat hunched over in the interrogation room.
He spoke in a low monotone, his words measured, calculated. He wove a tale of accidental death, of an argument gone wrong.
But the investigators saw through his lies. They had seen the look in his eyes, the chilling lack of remorse.
Piece by piece, they chipped away at his story. They confronted him with the evidence, the inconsistencies in his timeline. And slowly, reluctantly, Michael Jones began to unravel.
The truth, when it finally emerged, was far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. It was a tale of calculated cruelty, of a man who had methodically planned and executed the murders of his wife and children.
I bludgeoned Casey to death with a baseball bat.
And then, with a chilling detachment, he confessed to the murders of his children. Each murder, a carefully orchestrated act of betrayal, a testament to the depths of his depravity. The trial of of Michael Wayne Jones was a somber affair, a community united in grief and outrage. The courtroom, packed with family members and friends of the victims, was a sea of tear-stained faces, their eyes reflecting the pain of a loss that cut deep.
The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, painting a gruesome picture of a man consumed by rage and driven by a cold, calculating evil. They detailed the brutality of the murders, the sheer callousness with which Michael Jones had extinguished the lives of his wife and children.
The defense, their task, seemingly insurmountable, argued for leniency, citing Michael Jones's history of mental illness, his struggles with depression and anxiety. They pleaded with the jury to see beyond the horror of his crimes, to recognize the humanity of the man who stood before them.
But the jury remained unconvinced. After days of deliberation, they returned with a unanimous verdict. Guilty on all counts. Michael Wayne Jones, his face betraying no emotion, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
A wave of relief tinged with sorrow washed over the courtroom as the judge read the verdict. Guilty. Michael Wayne Jones, the man who had shattered the tranquility of their small town, would spend the rest of his days behind bars. Justice, in the eyes of the law, had been served.
But for the families of Casey, Macaulay, Cameron, Preston, and Ayana, there would be no true justice. No solace that could erase the pain of their loss. Their loved ones, their laughter, their love were gone, stolen by a man they had once called family.
The community of Summerfield, once a symbol of small-town innocence, was left reeling. The murders of the Jones family had exposed a darkness that lurked beneath the surface, a chilling reminder that evil could touch even the most idyllic of places.
Neighbors, once accustomed to the rhythm of their quiet lives, now looked at each other with a mixture of suspicion and fear. The laughter of children, once a source of joy, now carried a note of bittersweetness, a reminder of the young lives tragically cut short.
Michael Wayne Jones, stripped of his freedom, his life reduced to the confines of a prison cell, became a ghost, a chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can reside in the human heart. His days were measured in the slow, monotonous rhythm of prison life. The meals, the yard time, the endless hours spent staring at the cold, unforgiving walls. Each moment a testament to the gravity of his crimes. The world outside moved on, the seasons changing, the years passing, but for Michael Jones, time seemed to stand still. He was frozen in that moment, forever defined by the horrific acts that had led him to this place of confinement. His name, once synonymous with a quiet family man, was now uttered in hushed tones, a chilling reminder of the monster that lurked beneath the surface of normalcy. He was a pariah, an outcast, forever haunted by the ghosts of his past. The tragedy of the Jones family sent ripples of shock and grief far beyond Summerfield. Their idyllic life, shattered by violence, reminded us that darkness can lurk in unexpected places. The story, splashed across media, became a cautionary tale of hidden horrors in ordinary lives. In Summerfield, life went on, but it was irrevocably altered. Children's laughter carried a newfound poignancy, a reminder of young lives cut short. Neighbors, once quick to smile, now eyed each other with apprehension and grief. The community's facade was shattered, replaced by vulnerability. The scars of that tragedy, though invisible, ran deep. The community, bound by shared grief, sought solace in vigils and memorials. They clung to the memory of Cassie and her children, determined to keep their spirits alive.